Oh gosh, there's so many great memories of Elvis. It's hard to say which is the best. My favorite thing about Elvis was the fact that he was just a normal person. He didn't put on any airs as if he were the quote king of rock and roll. He was just a normal guy and an incredible entertainer, the best entertainer I've ever seen, and maybe the best there's ever been. And you know, the proof of the pudding is in the fact that here we are 35 years later after his death, and he's still drawing huge crowds wherever they have Elvis festivals like this. For example, when I take people down to meet him in the dressing room before the show in Las Vegas, people, both men and women, would literally lose their voices. They're just in such awe. His presence was so striking. They couldn't talk. Seeing men and women both start to tear up just being there with him. He just had a presence and a charisma, an aura about him that you just don't find in most people, or very few people ever. It came about by the fact that I was a family friend of Colonel Parker, who was Elvis's manager. Uh, our family knew him from the late 40s, so we knew he managed other people, you know, Hank Snow, Eddie Arnold, and I can remember the Colonel being over for Sunday afternoon dinner when we were living in California, and after dinner he would always light up a big cigar and tell us stories about show business. And one afternoon he very casually mentioned, he said, I signed a new boy today, and I think he's going to be pretty big. He always said putty instead of pretty. So I think he's going to be pretty big. His name is Elvis Presley. And you know, we had 10 kids in my family, and they all said, Elvis, what kind of name is Elvis? We never heard of that before. So that was how we got our first introduction to him. And then years later, when I was a little older, uh, my brother, Ron, who was in the Air Force studying photography and research and development, sent me a camera, an old Agfa Gabbard camera, and said, you ought to try taking pictures. It's really fun. And I tried it and I liked it. So I enrolled in a class at the university, a beginning photography class. And as I said, the colonel was a longtime family friend, and he would talk to my mom and dad by phone all the time. And I guess my mother told him one day that I was taking pictures. So when he called me in June of 1970 and said that he and Elvis had decided it was time to get back doing personal appearances, he said he wanted to know if my brother and I and a cousin and another friend would like to come along and help out on the tours, just do whatever was necessary to make sure the tours ran smoothly. You know, loading and unloading the planes, setting up the stage, loading the trucks, whatever it took. And of course I said yes. And he said, by the way, your mother tells me you're taking pictures now. I said, well, I just started taking a class. He said, well, if you want to, feel free to bring your camera and take all the pictures you want. And that sentence from him just changed my life, because over the next 5 years with Elvis, I took over 10,000 pictures. The most famous is not my favorite, but it's probably my second favorite. I happen to have it right here. It's a shot that I took. It was actually the last time I photographed Elvis in concert in Memphis, Tennessee, June 10th, 1975. And this photo has been used all over the world for every possible means you can imagine. And as I said, it's not my favorite. I still have one other favorite, but this is probably second favorite. And it's an incredible shot, I think. Well, I had left the Elvis show 3 months before he died, because I was dying. I was physically, mentally, emotionally, and monetarily washed out. And I walked away from the show. And the colonel and everybody else, you know, including members of my family, tried to get me to come back, and I wouldn't even talk to anybody. I just stayed alone. And a friend of mine that I trained to do a lot of my jobs on the tour, Ron Johnson was his name, called me the night before the next tour was coming up, and he said, I don't have a garage and I'm going to be gone for a few weeks. Can I park my car in your garage while I'm gone? Maybe you could give me a ride to the airport. We went out to dinner, and all through dinner he kept asking me, you know, why I didn't want to come back. He said, just pack a bag and come along. And I said, no, I'm not going back on the road. We drove to the airport, and on the way, he was doing the same thing. Finally, I said, "Look, Ron, I'm never going back on the road." I said, "You've seen how Elvis has been the last couple of tours, and he just hasn't looked good." I said, "This is your only job, your only means of income. And you could get a call at any time and say Elvis is dead, and then what are you going to do for a living?" So he says, "Okay, I'll leave you alone." So I drove him to Santa Monica Airport, talked to the few fans, not fans, but a few show members who were there flying to Memphis that night and staying overnight, and then picking up two of Elvis's Memphis Mafia guys to go on to Portland, Maine. I went home and went to bed. Next morning, about 9:30, my telephone rang. I picked it up, and it was Ron Johnson's voice. And he said, "How did you know?" And I said, "Ron, how did I know what?" He said, "Elvis is dead." And to this day, he insists I foretold his death. I said, "No, anybody that was around him enough could see what was going on." I said, "It was a big shock, but it wasn't a big surprise." Well, probably the main thing is the fact that you're around Elvis fans. Whether you come here as a fan to watch everything or as a guest speaker or a dealer to sell things, whatever it is, and even if you don't sell anything or make any money or do anything special, being in and among Elvis people is a reward in itself. It's a happy time. They're good people. You see a lot of the same people over and over again. It's like renewing old acquaintances, and it just never gets old. And I do this not only about Nauheim, but basically all over the world. And no matter where you go, whether you've ever been there or not or know anybody, you're accepted, and you accept the people as if you've known each other forever. And the common denominator with all of them is Elvis. He brings the world together.